Welcome to the Paperless Productivity Podcast, where we give you the tips, tricks, and know-how to solve your biggest workflow challenges and bring greater productivity into your workplace every day. Technology has become such a standard part of so many of our lives. Sometimes it can be hard to remember a time without it. In fact, for today's children, they have never known a time without it. Toddlers are swiping through nursery rhyme apps on iPads as easily as they're flipping through pop-up books. Going digital has benefited our lives in many different ways, personally and professionally. And today, we're talking with Kevin Ledgister, ImageSoft's marketing manager, to count through the many forms of technology that we're so very thankful for. Kevin, it's good to talk with you today.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Great. Well, tell me, so what are some of the areas of your life where you have seen a big improvement thanks to technology?
Well, before I get into that, I got to tell you this little story. One of the first movies that I ever went to with my wife was The Hunt for Red October. And for those of you who are movie buffs and have seen this movies back in the 80s, there was this great scene in there where the captain, who was played by Sean Connery, and his first officer, Sam Neill, are in the captain's quarters, and they're actually defecting to the United States, and they're dreaming about life, what it's like in the United States. And the first officer tells of one of the things on his bucket list, which is he wants to buy this RV and go from state to state, and that was his big dream. And he looks at this captain and he says, "So I can go from state to state with no papers?" Meaning identification not required, like in every state as it was in the old Soviet Union. And the captain said, "No papers." And I thought that was kind of interesting. And that line, for whatever reason, has always stuck out to me, is this whole question of no papers and really living free. But it was kind of almost prophetic in terms of where we are today. And one of the things I'm very thankful for as being someone that travels, quite a bit for my job, is the fact that I no longer have to deal with paper as I'm traveling, especially when it comes to by air. And you think about this. It used to be that, we had to have paper tickets and we'd have to go up to the ticket counter and have them print off our boarding passes for us. And we had to go through that whole rigmarole, which just took up and ate up so much time. And now we're doing all this stuff with mobile apps and check-ins. And if for some reason that you don't like the seats you got, you can just go right on your smartphone and change your seats. Or, with the system that we use in our company, one of the great things is when I book a reservation, it automatically sends me an Outlook invite that goes right on my calendar. It's got my itinerary attached, so I get automatic reminders, and it's just such an automated process. I used to work for another company when I started with a company, and they said, get ready for your Road Warrior days. And this is, of course, back in the early 2000s. And they told me, he says, you're going to get to the point where you're going to show up at a ticket counter, and the gate agent's going to ask you, where are you going today? So they could verify, to print off your boarding pass, and you're going to draw a complete blank. And I said, there's no way that would ever happen. And sure enough, a few months into the job, from traveling, from week to week, I stood up at the ticket counter and the gate agent asked me, where are you going? I drew a complete blank, and I said, I don't know. Please tell me. It was the funniest thing, but I'm just so glad today that, when we do air travel, that is so much of it is automated. And there was one time where my flight was actually delayed, and, because it was delayed, I was going to miss my connecting flight, which means I was going to, not make it to my destination. So while I'm in line and they're starting to we're starting to board this plane, even though it was late, and I'm wondering like, okay, well, I'll get to my next, my next stop and figure out things from there. I get a phone call. They'd already rebooked me on a different flight. They'd already updated my boarding pass and everything. It was such a pleasant experience that I was able to make that change. So really happy for that as somebody that, deals with, that paperless change as opposed to having to go to another gate and then get another boarding pass and getting that printed out, and then you lose it or it gets crushed. It's such a different in travel today. So I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, having that kind of convenience, it definitely makes travel so much easier and much less terrifying when you realize you might have forgotten your tickets at home, or, like you said, the missed connection or something. And that kind of convenience has really stretched to other areas where there are a lot of logistics involved, wouldn't you say?
There is. And you think about it in just various areas of our life. In my line of business, we deal with government agencies a lot. But just from a constituent perspective, think about this. And I know what it is in my state. I don't know what it is in your state where you're from, for those of you who are listening, but, we get to renew our stickers online. So it used to be that you get a card in the mail and you have to fill that out and send that back, and then you wait another week and then you get the stuff in the mail again. And now I just go online and I punch a couple of things in. They have my information already there. I have my credit card information. I just click a couple buttons, and then 2 or 3 days later, my renewal stickers for my car shows up, and I'm good to go. The last time when I changed the address on my driver's license, and usually I know going to DMV is not a pleasant experience for many people. It's just, it's just not a fun thing. And I walked into a DMV and I walked up to the information desk and I said, all I want to do is change the address of my license so that when I go anywhere, they can verify, that when they say this is my correct address, they can copy it off my card. I don't have to dictate it to them. And they said, oh, just go over that kiosk over there, punch a few things in, put your license number in. And I did that and punched a few licenses in. They made me enter in my new address. And that was it. Within a week, I had my brand new license. I had to use my existing photo. Everything was updated. And I was good to go. And it was just such a much more pleasant experience.
So much easier.
Oh, so much easier than dealing with all the forms and papers in the past. Think about it from a court perspective too. And this is something that I'm seeing from a professional perspective. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of interest in the courts is this idea called online dispute resolution, or ODR is our lingo speak for that. And that may include many things. But for the average person, what that means is, let's suppose you get a speeding ticket and you wanted to contest that speeding ticket. There was some evidence that was there that would just clearly kind of show, that maybe the officer got it wrong, or that you had some good reason why you shouldn't be considered, or whatever. It used to be that you'd actually have to have a court date set. You have to take time off of work. You drive down to the courthouse, deal with parking, get in there. And, you had to sit there and wait through everybody going through the line until your time came up. And then you were able to make that appearance and take care of that. And it was just a whole long process, took a lot of time out of your day. Now what a lot of the courts are doing is they're looking to this technology called online dispute resolution, where, you just go online and maybe you have a picture, a document, or a reasoning where you could just upload it to that. You can respond to, the ticket that you got. You can say, here's the reason why I think the officer got it wrong, that type of thing, and submit it to the court. And, within minutes or hours or whatever, a law enforcement individual can actually review, what you actually wrote, and either take down the ticket or actually make the charges stick, or they can wipe it out completely and they could say, yeah, we see that there's enough evidence here to suggest that, maybe, the officer possibly got it wrong, or maybe the officer did get it right and your evidence is not sufficient to overturn it. Or maybe they're just going to drop the ticket down because you decide to respond anyways, and the court had mercy upon your poor little soul. So, So those are things that we just see happening that makes, justice accessible to other people, that by taking the drive of paper out of the process, it does make things a lot easier for people to resolve a lot of these things and to get on with your life. So I'm just really pumped about, all the things that are happening along those fronts.
Yeah, and that's really incredible, because in the past, the Secretary of State or the DMV or your local court really aren't places that most people would have described as efficient or easy to access or making it any sort of a pleasant experience.
No.
And really only because there's so much content that they're working with for each person. So it was hard to corral all that paper together. Yeah. And so going paperless really has been making a big difference for everyone, both employees in those spaces and for the public that they serve.
It certainly is. And it's really making accessible. And one of the things that, that just occurred to me as you were talking there, Kate, is that, there's a lot of people in this country who are, not from here originally. They speak a different language. Mm-hmm. And so by providing some of these paperless options or online options, a court can't afford to have 20 different people that speak 20 different languages sitting there. Or the DMV can't afford to do that. But when you make these, services available online and through a digital environment, it's much easier to provide those translation services. So I think that's just a great thing for everybody.
Greater accessibility, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, what are some other areas where digitizing documents has made a big difference on both sides of the desk?
Well, one of the things that we see is in education, and this is something that I've noticed just going through this whole process, because I had to we just went through some things from a personal perspective, and I had to enroll my son in an online school. Mm-hmm. And usually that process has been, I remember when I went to school, it was all paper. Mm-hmm. Everything was just flying back and forth, stamps, letters, envelopes. It was a major process. And to enroll him in the school and get everything done, it was so pleasant. First of all, I had to sign an agreement. Well, usually that means they mail you the agreement, you print off and you sign it, and then you turn around and you send it back. And we need to get him enrolled very quickly. So they just sent me the documents electronically. It was all signed electronically through DocuSign. My ID was verified through the whole process. So within a minute, I had him enrolled in school, which was fantastic.
That's amazing.
And then in terms of the the only thing that was somewhat paper based and is the fact that the official transcripts have to be sent by paper. However, one of the things that we're seeing, and we actually have one of our customers is doing this electronically, where they're providing transcripts electronically now, where you can actually request a transcript from that school, and they have an official process where they can actually provide an electronic seal and certify that this is, a copy of the official transcript as they have online, and schools are accepting that and using that. So now that whole process can be speeded up. So not only does it make it a lot easier for the schools to respond, it's also a lot better for the students, that are trying to apply and trying to get into the various schools. So we're seeing more and more of these things that are going and are increasing in usage, that are just making these types of transactions so much more efficient, so much more better. And then you can't forget the personal side. I just think for myself, and I go back, 10 years ago in terms of what was life like. Well, I had an iPod for my music. I carried a Palm Pilot for my schedule. I had a pager so that my office could notify me. And then I had a cell phone with a 60-minute per month cell plan. So that,
you'll never use those all, right? I mean,
no. Oh, my
you'll
goodness.
Never use all those minutes.
Oh, I can remember just going through that. I'm looking for a payphone because I don't want to use up all my minutes on my cell phone.
Exactly.
But to think about that, all those different devices that we used to carry, used to access, is now all contained within one device. And, it's been 11 years, 11 years and a couple months since the first iPhone was introduced. And then we got the Android phones, and then everything just changed, from there on. And now that's a big question in terms of what we need to do. Whether you're a government organization or a court or you're a business, insurance company, whatever you are, you're always thinking about how can we help our constituents, because so many people have a mobile phone. You could be below the poverty line. A lot of people below the poverty line, they have a mobile phone, and that's a great way for organizations and businesses to reach out to them and interact with them, that we can leverage that technology now. And so I'm just so thankful for that. It makes it so much easier for me. When I travel now, I just got one device, and I think a lot of people are just thankful for the fact that we're not like Batman on with a bad hairdo carrying all that stuff around our belt.
Oh, but the tool belt would be kind of cool, I guess.
It is kind of cool.
But to combine it all into one device is certainly a little easier.
It is a lot easier. It makes it a lot simpler, and life is just better.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so I have to know, just while we're talking about, Batman and cool technology and everything, I want to know, what technology are you personally thankful for? Like, what makes the biggest difference in your life?
Okay, well, I'll tell you something that has made a huge difference in my life. You're going to laugh at this, but GPS with real-time traffic updates. It has literally saved my marriage. When we used to go on long trips, and I would carry a map book, and we would get, for instance, stuck in the city of Chicago or stuck in some big city, and you're trying to figure out, okay, we're stuck. Is there a better way around this? We're going to head through rush hour. What are the alternate routes? And my wife would be sitting there trying to figure out where it's going to go. And we'd have this frustration, like, which way should I go? She says, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. And even when we got our first smartphones that had a map on it, it didn't give you turn-by-turn directions. Right. So you had to, it would be so funny. I had one. She just had a flip phone at the time. And so I'd hand her my phone, and she said, well, this map is too small. The screen is too small. And I said, well, just put on your glasses. And she said, well, I didn't bring my glasses. Well, how could you not bring your glasses? Because, we would just get into these arguments every time we're on a trip. And now with GPS with turn-by-turn directions, she has a smartphone. I have a smartphone. And it has just revolutionized our travel. Now she is my wonderful co-pilot. She's looking at things ahead. She's telling me, here's the gas station coming up. Here's the restaurant coming up. Here's the traffic is going to stall. You might want to, now they're giving you real-time traffic updates, which is good. But before that, she would even say, hey, if you take this road, you can cut a lot of that stuff out. And it's just made traveling just so much more sweeter. So that technology has saved my marriage. It's been the biggest life changer of all. And now it's enjoyable to take personal trips with my wife.
Well, and I bet that's a benefit that, they never even considered, that this would be a marriage saver as well as a time and efficiency saver.
Yeah, when we said death till death do us part, they didn't say until we get GPS.
Right. Exactly. Well, personally, for me, it would have to be the ability to set reminders on my phone just by pressing the button and speaking into it. That has helped me out so many times. Same thing, just for every little thing, for reminding me to, call somebody on their birthday, or checking in on a work project, or just reminding me to turn on the crock pot in the morning. Sometimes it's just the little things that make a big difference in life. So
it is. It really is.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, if you haven't already, I'd like you to set a reminder to subscribe to the podcast. You see what I did there? So you won't miss an episode of Paperless Productivity. We've got some great guests coming up and different ways we're exploring how going paperless can make a difference in your work and in your life. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for joining us today for this episode of Paperless Productivity. This podcast is sponsored by ImageSoft, the paperless process people, which you can learn more about at ImageSoftInc.com. That's ImageSoftInc.com. Join us next time where you'll learn how to harness the power of technology, supercharge efficiency, and accomplish your organization's goals.